Hello, everyone, and welcome to the August 2026 edition of the ASPEC podcast. Incredibly excited to be here today, chatting with DeVi, aka Deviant Nails, on Twitch about sex favorability and sex positivity within ace spaces. And I'm incredibly excited to be chatting with you. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello. So I am Devi Demon of Deviant Nails. I'll just do my Twitch introduction so people sort of get a gist for who I am. So I am a level 3 qualified nail technician from the UK, using Twitch as a platform to practice nail arts for industry. Alongside nails, we also do play a whole host of games, usually sticking more towards the indie side of life, but we have played a couple of big name games here and there. Alongside all of that, we also do Lego streams, co-working streams, art streams, papercraft streams. We genuinely put the variety into variety streamer. If I have an itch to do it, we will probably do it on stream. But yeah, that's me.
Thank you so much for introducing yourself.
Of course.
For those that don't know, my name is Tai Eye, PhD candidate in climate science, doing research on soil temperature and snow cover. But of course, here on the podcast, we explore asexuality and aromanticism through a intersectional lens, really highlighting the fact that asexuality and aromanticism are very diverse spectrums of experiences, and therefore, we cannot discuss asexuality and aromanticism without taking that intersectional lens and looking at it from intersectional perspective. So today we're going to be talking about sex favorability and sex positivity, something that is rarely ever talked about in ace spaces, and unfortunately gets a lot of erasure within asexual spaces. So just to sort of
Very much
begin,
does.
I'd like to just start with some, basic definitions of these terms that I've, come across, on the interwebs, in, ace spaces. However, these are just general definitions, and the way that everyone uses them and what they mean to different folks does vary. So I'll start with some general definitions, and then I'll ask Devi to talk about, what those terms mean to her. So, sex positivity. When we talk about sex positivity, we are focusing on sex in general as a concept rather than one's own favorability. So, there's sort of three categories. We've got sex positive. So, this is someone that has a positive attitude towards consensual sex and the idea that one should be freely able to choose whether or not to engage in it. Typically, sex positivity has historically focused around undoing the shame around openly talking about sex and sexuality. Then we've got sex neutrality. So this is that you have no real strong feelings about sex in general, positive or negative. And conversely, somebody that is sex negative is someone that would theoretically have a negative attitude towards sex in general, typically associated with the belief that sex between consenting individuals is wrong or bad. So that's just sort of the umbrella of sex positivity. Let's now turn our focus to sex favorability. So when we talk about sex favorability, we're often talking about our own comfort levels with sex and engaging with sexual activity. So someone that's sex favorable is someone that has a positive attitude towards engaging in sexual activity, or they desire sex, irregardless of whether or not they are sexually attracted to someone. Someone that's sex indifferent is, take it or leave it. They have no real strong opinions or feelings about engaging in sex. It's not something they're particularly fussed about either way. Someone that's sex averse is someone that does not desire sex, but is not repulsed by it. And then the one that media sort of blanket classifies all asexuals as by default is somebody that's sex repulsed. And this is someone that is repulsed by the thought of engaging in sexual activity. And unfortunately, media and society as a whole sort of has this blanket assumption that all aces are sex negative and sex repulsed. And it is incredibly infuriating and problematic. I know that you're definitely going to talk about this, but what do those terms mean for you?
I'll be perfectly honest. I've never really thought about those terms before, because as somebody who understands what asexuality is, and unfortunately, now this is, take this with a grain of salt, but most people who identify as asexual that I have met, both online and in real life, tend to forget what asexuality actually means at its core values. And they are either sex negative or sex repulsed. So those are the only two that I sort of really add on to asexuality, because I've never thought of, because I know that being sex positive has nothing to do with asexuality. So it's never occurred to me to think about those. Because asexuality is just asexuality to me. I have such a deep understanding of it that I forget that until I meet someone and they're like, "Oh, well, you can't be ace because of this," and I'm like, "Ah, yes, I remember now. This is the general opinion. I forget." But no, I do very much agree with the terms that the general definitions that you have put forward. Like, they do make sense. Like, there is a difference between positive and favorable.
Absolutely. Because you can be sex positive, but be, indifferent or averse or even theoretically repulsed by it yourself.
Yeah.
They're two mutually
And still be
exclusive.
sex positive.
Exactly. They're mutually exclusive.
Yeah. I do very quickly want to say that, just for anybody who is listening, because the word repulse can often have a negative connotation. If you are sex repulsed, it is not a negative thing. It is not a bad thing. It just means that you don't like the idea of taking part in any form of sexual activity. Whether how you define sexual activity is individual to yourself. We all have our own definitions of what is considered sexual activity as well. Just in case anybody's sitting there thinking, "Oh my lord, this is a bad thing." It is not. It is not. It's just socially, the word repulse tends to have negative connotations, but it 100% does not in this context. I just wanted to get that out early.
Thank you so much.
Because I remember how I felt when the word repulse was first used, when I was explaining my thing, and I was like, I feel like I had to hide it because it was such a it's like it's not a nice word, and it has social connotations that we just apply to it without thinking about the context. So I just wanted to get that out really early and just be like, if you feel like this, it is not a bad thing.
Absolutely not at all. Yo, Peach! Welcome on in, Raiders. Thank you so much for the raid, Peach-tastic. Of course, Peach has been on the podcast several times herself, and we always love chatting with Peach. Thank you so much for the raid. Let me give you a shout out, Peach-tastic.
Hello, Raiders.
Good to see you. What were you up to? What were you playing, Peach? Always good to see you. Also, hello, Stu. Spider Bites. Sweet. Always lovely to see you.
I'm sorry, but can I just say, I'm loving the raid message from Sweet Wild Thing.
Such a mood. Such a mood indeed.
Fantastic, love it.
I love it.
As someone who's been there before, mood.
Real. It's a real mood. I love it. Thank you so much again for raiding. If you need to raid and run, self-care is super important, and it is always IRL before URL. So please take care of yourself. Do what you need to do. Crochet and inventory and then some palea. Sounds like a nice mix of things.
Ooh.
And yes, please get the noms. Go get the Sammys. That sounds delicious. We are just chatting about sex positivity and sex favorability. And I've been really excited to chat with Debbie about this topic because it's something we rarely ever talk about within ace spaces and rarely ever talk about in general when the term asexuality is brought up. The other thing I would like to point out is something that many folks often confuse: the difference between libido and sexual attraction, because it definitely applies here.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Like it again, it falls into that assumption or I don't want to use the word ignorance, but not having the knowledge of what asexuality actually is. Because it's been half of it has been washed away by media representation, unfortunately. And when so many people say the same thing, it rings as true, even if it's not. And a lot of people have forgotten, even asexual people themselves have forgotten what asexuality means at its very core.
Absolutely. 100%. So asexuality is is basically a sexual orientation in which you have little to no sexual attraction to any gender. Libido is different. Libido is just, some people call it a sex drive, other people use different terms, but you can have a high libido and be asexual.
Yeah,
Those things are mutually exclusive.
yeah, I tend to think of asexuality points outwards, libido points inwards. It is a
Exactly.
biological urge to chase that pleasure, essentially, and having a high libido or high sex drive has absolutely nothing to do with having no sexual attraction to someone. Like I have friends and I have play partners that I absolutely love to bits. I am ride or die for these people. I love them in my very core, and I have no sexual attraction to them whatsoever. Like there is no it's just not there. But I will still go and have a scene with them because and I still love them to pieces. Even I have play partners that I don't have that love. We're just great friends. There's no sexual attraction, but I'll still go and have a scene with them if I trust them.
Absolutely, 100%. And also, another thing that's important to bring up is there's multiple types of attraction. In society, we often only think about one or two: sexual attraction and romantic attraction. But there's myriads of different kinds of attraction. And those things can be mutually exclusive again.
Yep.
We've got
Right. It's like I think my favorite two examples, because I'm on a kink scene, I know a lot of people with a lot of different attractions. And I think my favorite was the discussion that we would often overhear once a month between, I can't remember the names of this particular type of attraction, but one of them was attracted to essentially not so bright people, and one was attracted to intelligence. And they were really good friends, but listening to the discussion between them was just absolutely enlightening and hilarious sometimes. And those, again, they both considered themselves somewhat on the asexual spectrum, because the only attraction they had to people was their level of intelligence, whether it was lower or higher. It was again, ace covers so many things because there was no sexual attraction for them.
It's attraction is incredibly complex to navigate, particularly as an aspec individual, because the way that we're I guess our relationship to attraction is very different from an allo person, or somebody that experiences sexual attraction, or if we're talking about aromanticism, somebody that experiences romantic attraction. Yeah, that term does exist. Many folks, including myself, tend to be a little, cautious about using that term because it can have ableist connotations, unfortunately. But I do understand where you're coming from, dude. But yeah, that term does, potentially, and I've had folks be like, it's maybe not a term you want to use because of the fact that it may have ableist connotations, unfortunately. But yes, we have talked in the past about kink and the fact that many, many ace folks enjoy engaging in kink. And actually, episode 18 of the podcast was all about kink. And I know we're going to be talking about that as well today. Some other kinds of attraction. Sorry?
Go on, sorry. No, you carry on.
I was just going to point out that some other kinds of attraction, and one that many ace folks have throughout their, many points in their life may be mistaken for sexual attraction, is aesthetic attraction. You like the look of something. It looks appealing. That's aesthetic attraction. But there's myriad other kinds of attraction. Sensual attraction, which is not sexual. The idea that you would like to be emotionally close to somebody could be tertiary attraction. Sensual is more that you want to have intimacy with someone. But again, the term intimacy is often in society equated with sexuality. Yeah, sexual acts. But it's not. It's literally just, being close to someone.
I mean, depending on your personal definition of intimacy, a hug could be considered something intimate.
Exactly.
A handshake could be intimate. A kiss, all the way up to like cuddling and canoodling and those sexual acts. So it depends on your personal definition to yourself of what you consider intimate.
Exactly. It's just in society we often use those terms interchangeably or to mean the same thing, but they don't necessarily have to. And in many aspec spaces, they don't mean the same thing.
Excuse me.
Any thoughts following up on sort of the, different kinds of attraction here before we move on?
I don't think so. I'm very sort of easy going with things. I don't tend to put much thought into other people's attraction outside of my own because it's none of my business. What makes you happy makes you happy. You do you, boo. As long as it's not bad, because there is sometimes some types of attraction that are very bad. Yeah, go for it. Whatever
Absolutely.
floats your boat, you know, as long as you're happy and safe and it's all consensual.
Absolutely. So, kind of circling back to why society generally assumes that all asexuals are sex negative and sex repulsed, and how incredibly harmful this assumption is. Yo, Duke, thank you so much for gifting a tier 1 sub to Debbie. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you
That's
very
very kind,
much.
Duke. Also amazing to see you. Always lovely to see you, Spidey. Thank you so much for being here today. So this
It is
assumption,
an incredibly harmful. Yeah, go
yeah,
on. Sorry,
this
you carry on.
assumption leads to alienation of many aces, particularly sex favorable aces, and erases them completely from discussions of asexuality. And moreover, this can lead to their exclusion from many ace focused spaces.
And I have experienced this time and time again.
Absolutely.
Like
And it's
I because of this assumption and because of this erasure of my side of the spectrum, I struggled for years. I have multiple flags, and the asexual one was essentially one of the first flags that I was like, oh, I identify with this. And because of that erasure, I struggled with this one the most. It's only really sort of been last summer, so the past 12 months, that I've gone, actually, you know what? I am 100% asexual. I have every right to be here, even if my um general being doesn't match up with this so-called this is what ace is supposed to be. But it has alienated me from conversations. I have been told multiple times by multiple different people online and in real life that, oh, you're not asexual, you don't, this is the wrong identifier, you're stealing our flag, you're wrong. And it's not, it's just because people have forgotten what it actually means, and it is incredibly alienating because I spent so long trying to find what fit me, even though the ace flag did, because I was told, oh no, you're wrong, you're not allowed to identify with this because you are wrong. And it troubled me for years because I was like, this is how I feel and nothing else quite fits. For a while I identified as demisexual because it was the closest thing that felt like it kind of fit. But even then, it felt off. And it wasn't until I sort of sat down and went, you know what, I'm going to actually do a lot of reading instead of just talking to people. I'm gonna go and find definitions. I'm gonna dig deep into what it actually means and find my flag. And it turned out it was asexual all along, and it was just because of other people's again, I don't like to use the word ignorance, but it kind of is. They just
also
didn't,
gatekeeping.
you know. Yeah, kind of. I don't like to think of it as gatekeeping. I like to think of it as people have forgotten. And because they have forgotten, it does lean into gatekeeping, even though they're not intentionally trying to keep it this way. It is literally just because they have forgotten. And also, people don't tend to think outside of what their identity is as well, which, no fault to them. No fault to them at all. Like, I don't tend to. I have a basic understanding of most of the sexualities and most of their identities, just so I can, I'm not ignorant when I meet someone, but I don't have a deep understanding of a lot of them because it's not me. It's not what I identify with. I just have enough knowledge to scratch the surface to know generally what people are about.
Absolutely. And we've talked, unfortunately, many times on the podcast here that sex favorable aces, but also folks that fall under the gray umbrella, such as myself, are often erased from ace spaces. And unfortunately, there's been many, many cases on Instagram, on Threads, on that horrible space that I never spend any time on now, Twitter, where asexuality has, there's been some really, really problematic posts about asexuality, erasing the lived experiences, or even going as far as saying these things that you experience are not asexuality, because the only aces that matter are the ones that fit the media stereotype. And I'm like, no, that's disgusting. Absolutely not. And it happens so frequently, unfortunately. So, one thing I'd like to maybe turn my attention to and think about as a potential possibility for some of this happening is turning to theories of compulsory sexuality. One of my most favorite books on asexuality, definitely talked about this many times, by Sharonda J. Brown. It's called Refusing Compulsory Sexuality, a Black Asexual Lens on Our Sex-Obsessed Culture. Now, here in the book, they often, Sharonda J. Brown talks about compulsory sexuality in the context of asexuality, and very much about, the fact that society as a whole assumes everybody wants to have sex and looks at it in a different lens. But I want to sort of steer it in a slightly different direction and say that not only do they assume everybody wants to have sex, they tell us under what conditions we are allowed to have sex. And so it says that if you are asexual, you don't meet the bar for wanting to have sex. And a lot of this comes down to patriarchal power control, saying that only those who are socially privileged get to decide who's allowed to have sex and under what conditions. All of this inevitably links back to compulsory heterosexuality and, unfortunately, colonialism and white supremacy. And by default, compulsory sexuality is designed around the desires of the archetypal cis white heterosexual male. And it very much is used as a tool of power and oppression to control when and how marginalized genders and marginalized individuals are allowed to have sex and with whom they are allowed to have sex with. It does really bizarre and horrible things, like simultaneously hypersexualize and desexualize as is seen fit of marginalized genders, marginalized individuals, to control a narrative that folks desire sex because they experience sexual attraction. But beyond that, compulsory sexuality, as I just said, controls what is seen as pure and proper around sex. So when you combine compulsory sexuality with the fact that limited depictions of asexuality in media are predominantly white, sex repulsed, and often aro ace, it creates this very exclusionary environment for folks who are sex favorable but happen to be asexual. And it contributes to this myth that all aces are sex repulsed and sex negative. So, under this framework, sex favorable aces present a threat to this carefully controlled narrative that compulsory sexuality tries to push. This obviously is, highly theoretical, but I think if we think about it in terms of who's in power and why they're doing this, we can start to see how some of this may potentially have evolved.
Sorry, I'm just reeling from like I have. I don't know if anybody saw the emotions I was going through there, but like I have never heard such bullshit in my life.
Yeah,
Like,
it is bullshit.
serious,
It
like,
is
I've seen
bullshit.
less bullshit in the cow fields.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that's what society
Yeah,
does.
it is the narrative that people tend to live by, because because I think it does contribute to the fact that people have forgotten. That is my I will die on this hill, is that the reason that asexuals like myself are so alienated from asexual spaces is because people have forgotten. They have taken a definition and just sort of gone, oh, well, if Joe Bloggs has said it's right and Karen around the corner says it's right, well, clearly it's the correct one. When it's not. It's just one half of it.
It's just one particular experience within
Yeah, it's
asexuality.
one, it's the loudest, I feel. And that is that it's the one that, because I feel it's very, very similar to the way that for a good chunk of time autism was portrayed in the media and what people were told it was, and people just went, oh, well, it must be then. And it's completely not. So a very similar thing has happened with Ace, is that this particular thing, this one spot, this one point on the spectrum has been given a bit of a brighter spotlight than the rest of it. And people who are not in the know, not, because they're not part of the community, they're not, they've just gone, oh, well, this is the information that's been presented to me, so therefore this is what it must be, because I'm not part of this whole thing. And it's just it's like throwing a pebble down the mountain. Eventually it turns into a boulder.
Yep.
I know it's completely it's backwards, but the metaphorical of it makes sense.
100%.
To me it does anyway.
100%. And it's often those in power who are heterosexual, cis, white males coming up with this media.
I think it also comes from a misunderstanding of these people with the loudest voices who are not part of the community, who disagree. They disagree. It doesn't make sense to them, so therefore it cannot be right. The version that makes sense to them is the one that they will preach, even though they have no right preaching anything, because they are not part of this community. And they just tend to be the loudest.
Mhm.
That's and you can look at anything, any community, any sort of thing like that, and anybody who's the loudest, the group of people in that community that are loudest, are the ones that are taken as truth, unfortunately, by those who are outside of that group. And it just rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls, and eventually the rest of us just sort of get swept under the rug and forgotten about.
And the media has played a big role in that, unfortunately.
As it always does with everything.
Mm-hmm. We've talked about how problematic media representations of asexuality are so many times on the podcast. And, we started the very first episode talking about, some of the earliest depictions of asexuality in mainstream media and how horrible and horrendous they were. And the fact that, even now we're barely getting past that. And obviously, with the direction that much of the world has been moving in, I'd say we're making unfortunate, steps backwards around ace representation in the media. And it's generally only, alt media and, things like books and, indie content like the the films that, like the film that recently came out, the little short film, a rom-com that actually does it correctly. But mainstream media does not. But that's what everybody sees,
Yeah.
of course, is mainstream media. So that's all they
Yeah.
ever learn about.
Yeah. Which I can't fault these people who only learn from mainstream media, because again, if it's not their community, they're not going to go looking for the information. They'll just sort of go, "Oh,
Of
well,
course.
this must be how it is,
Yeah.
because this is how it's portrayed." You know,
Mhm.
it's a shame that those of us who are sort of erased have to shout a little bit louder just to go,
Mhm.
"Hey, actually, you know, that is only part of it," because it is the truth. I will admit that the mainstream media is telling the truth. It's just not telling all of the truth.
Mhm. Only
You know,
telling one part of it.
yeah, it's only telling that one highlighted part and forgetting. And I don't know whether that's intentional. I don't know whether it's because the people who are writing these stories and you know, doing these things again are ignorant to the rest of it, and they're just going off what they've been told. We don't know how
Mhm.
far back it goes to sort of, you know, we don't know, this writer could have gotten their information from mainstream media, because we know a lot of people don't do much research anymore. And if they're outside of that, how many times, I mean, I think my most hated example of this is 50 Shades of Grey. Oh, that caused us so many problems. You know, that person who
Ugh.
wrote that book wasn't inside that community. They just sort of went, "Oh, well, this is what I know about it from everything I have absorbed around me. I'm not actually going to deep dive into it, and this is what it must be." And it is very much not.
There's so many examples of that. So
Yeah.
many examples of that, unfortunately.
I just tend to use 50 Shades of Grey because I have front row experience of how damaging it was.
Mhm. There's plenty of examples, and
Yeah.
the really problematic episode of House, for example. Don't get me started on that one.
I'll admit I've not watched House in years, so I don't. Oh, hold on, my everything just crashed.
Oh no,
Can you still hear me?
I can. And you still seem to be on
Okay.
the overlay.
Okay, I don't know. I'm not quite sure what happened then, but I got a big sort of, I don't know. I think we're okay.
Yeah, it looks like I have not seen any issues on my end.
I'm trying to be silenced. Something is trying to silence me. No, I think it was just a tech blip there.
Yeah, it's not a proper stream if there wasn't.
The universe
Yeah,
knows what I want to say and is trying to silence me.
yeah, it's not a proper stream if there isn't at least one tech issue, right?
Oh, listen, Scuff is king, and we will never dethrone him. Honestly, Scuff will be here until the end of time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no,
Mm-hmm.
it's. I forgot what I was saying, to be perfectly honest. Now that freaked me out a little bit.
They were just talking about media representation, and you talked about the problematic representation in 50 Shades of Grey. I brought up House, and
You did, yes, you did. Yeah, I feel like the first step into most media portrayals of most things is always problematic unless it's written by somebody. But then
mm-hmm,
again, even when it is written by somebody who's in the community, it can be problematic if they're not representing the whole and they're only
mm-hmm,
because you can only really talk about your own personal
exactly.
experiences.
I only know
You
my
know,
own lived experience.
yeah, I only know my own lived experience, and I may have many friends now who do identify as asexual, um, but I still don't know their experiences. Like,
No.
I know of their
Mm-hmm,
experiences, but I have never experienced them, so I can't really talk about them in confidence unless they're there with me.
exactly. And unfortunately, it tends to only be the indie representation that actually attempts to include more representations of asexuality. And I don't know if you are aware of the comic Willow and the Family Ace by Kimberly Riot.
Doesn't ring a bell to me.
Fantastic webcomic, fantastic BIPOC ace representation that includes the whole spectrum of asexuality from, what we would typically see in media, but also everything else. So, demisexuality, gray sexuality, and just really, really fantastic representation that goes above and beyond and says, hey, not all asexuals are aroace and sex repulsed.
Which is good. We need more of that.
I
Because
was
I know I have met plenty of asexual people and I have told them about my experiences and they've gone, I need to reevaluate because I don't know if this fits me anymore. I don't know if, it's like I know Insomnia quite early into the stream was like, I need to reevaluate now that I have this additional information. And it's that's why I'd like to talk about it. It's why I made a video during Pride Month explaining my experience and my journey with asexuality, because teaching people is and sharing that correct information is just better for everyone in the long run.
Absolutely. And I've come to learn so much through this podcast. And, prior to that, being a part of and then co-facilitating the Aces and Arrows support group that I helped co-facilitate. And it was only because of talking to others and learning about their experiences that I came to learn things I would never have otherwise come to learn about myself.
That's fantastic. Yeah, things like this are really, really good. It's why I enjoy talking about things. It's why I was so excited to join you on the podcast, because it was like, this is people forget. I like to remind them, and the more information people have, the better. Just the better all around.
Exactly.
Because it's just a snowball effect. One person says something and then another person will speak about it, and then that person knows, and it's just a long line. I mean, eventually the information may get confused because it's word of mouth and that's just how it happens. But that means that, there's a few more people who have the correct information and they can pass it on, and hopefully eventually they meet some, even if the information gets confused down the line, they'll eventually meet somebody who has the correct information and they can cross-reference, and then the person who's a little bit confused can. It's just, it's a big spider web. It's a big spider web of just we are slowly chipping away at the wrong view of asexuality.
And this very narrow
even
view.
Even if you are a sex repulsed or, sex negative asexual, it's still beneficial for you to understand what asexuality actually means.
100%.
That is my biggest, I will scream this forever, is that, just know what it means, what it actually means. You can have your definition of what it means for you. There is nothing wrong with that. Your definition of your personal asexuality can be, I'm sex repulsed, I don't like sex, I don't like this, I don't like this. Completely fair, understandable. That is your bubble. But you also need to understand and respect the rest of the spectrum.
100%. And I am so glad, Duke, that the Google Doc I created for Pride Month helped somebody come to, learn more about themselves. That's why I create these documents in the first place. And, I'm so glad that this helped somebody outside of the community even learn about their own identity.
Again, that is literally just the point we've been talking about, is that it takes one person to say something to another person, who then passes that on and passes that on and passes that on and passes that on and passes that. And it's just a web. We just need to build that web and make sure that the correct information is going out.
100%. And I go on many, many rants about, because, you know, we talk a lot, I think lately we've talked a lot about asexuality on the podcast and less about aromanticism. And as somebody that is aro aspec, I also, you know, really want to stress, you know, issues around, you know, the fact that there's a whole spectrum of aromanticism as well. That's not the
Yeah.
focus of today, but
I feel like a lot of conversations tend to lean more towards talking about asexuality is because that is
mhm,
out of the two, I've never really met anybody who sort of is like, ugh, about aromanticism. They just sort of go, yeah, okay, fair enough. But as soon as you say, oh, I'm asexual, they're like, oh, well, you've just not met the right person. You've just not done it right. You've just not this. You'll meet someone, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I feel like it people focus more on but you can't not like sex.
they've
And it's
said it
like,
to me
but that's
about romanticism too, unfortunately.
yeah, 100%. I've heard people say it before, but out of my personal experience, I always find people tend to be more sort of like, yeah, whatever about the romantic side. Even for people who are not aromantic, who you know have that romantic attraction, it's just like it's quote unquote a given in a sense. But as soon as you mention, oh yeah, or I don't like sex, or I don't, I've got to wait for the right person. It's like, well, no, that can't be right because it doesn't fit that. Like you
Doesn't fit
mentioned before,
this.
that
Doesn't
yeah,
fit
the compulsory
this.
sexuality, it doesn't fit that box, and people are just because they don't understand it, they fight it. It
100%.
doesn't align with their experiences, so therefore it cannot be correct.
Mm. Yes, so infuriating. I'm mindful of the fact that I think we are going to be coming up to an ad break relatively soon. So I don't want to jump to the next topic quite yet. Are you okay
That's fair.
if we run the ads a little bit early, take a little break, and then come back and jump to the next question?
100%. Because
Yo, thank
I
you so
need a
much
piddle
for
myself.
subscribing with Prime, Insomniac Dragon.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you
a
so
special
much.
subscription.
Thank you
That's a
so much.
special
You
one because you
only
only get one
have
of them a month.
one Prime sub, and you
Ah.
chose me to be that Prime sub. Thank you so much. That means so much to me. We will be back
And
in.
Summonac is a good egg.
Aw, thank you so much again. We'll be back in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
See you on the other side of the ads, and look forward to continuing our chat.
See you soon.
All right, welcome back, folks. Thanks for sticking around through the ad break. Thank you for the hydrate, Jazz. Important reminder to everyone
Oh,
to hydrate. Always good to see you,
you can't
Jazz.
see me hydrating, but I am hydrating.
I give you a shout out, Jazz. Always good to see you. Jazz does so much amazing work in the chronic illness and disability space. Absolutely does amazing work through mutual aid fundraising, and absolutely y'all should go give Jazz a follow. So we were talking a lot about, prior to the break, the role of media in, sort of continuing this narrative that all aces are sex repulsed, sex negative, and, this pushing this very narrow definition of asexuality and how problematic that is. And we haven't specifically talked about, the your own experiences around this. We were talking more about it more broadly, but I do want to ask, what has your experience been like as a sex favorable and sex positive ace within asexual spaces and more broadly aspec spaces?
I that I'm wrong. I have been told so many times that I'm wrong, that I cannot identify as an asexual because I enjoy and seek out sex. Like some people will be sort of like okay with the fact that I enjoy it, but if I mention that I will specifically go and seek it out, that is a problem. That is a big no-no. And I will get alienated from those spaces because I can understand that some sexual people don't enjoy talking about sex.
Mhm.
It's I feel like that also leads into the narrative that all asexual people are like this because society wise talking about sex, even just vanilla missionary, it's like, oh no, we're not supposed to talk about that. We're not supposed to, no, talk about sex. Like more, it's just it's a biological function. It's the same as going to nobody has an issue of saying, oh, I just need a wee, I'm going to go to the toilet. Nobody's upset about that. Why don't we can't? It doesn't make sense to me. It genuinely doesn't make sense to me. Like it's just a part of life. It is. How do you think you got here? Somebody had sex.
Mhm.
I don't understand why it's a taboo subject. I understand that some people are uncomfortable, but I feel like I've met more people who are uncomfortable because society has told them to be
Yes,
uncomfortable
it is
talking about
all
it.
about the fact that
Um,
compulsory sexuality tells you you must be
yeah,
uncomfortable about it, and it has to be done in secret, and that you can only do it in certain ways and under certain circumstances that society has approved is this narrow range of all the bullshit we talked
yeah,
about
but
earlier.
like being told by so many different people that I was not asexual because I favored sex really messed with my head for so many years because I couldn't work out where I fit in. My journey with oh, sorry, I've got hiccups. My journey with asexuality has been so long because of people who are adamant that this narrative is the correct one when it is not. And it took me having to find that small pocket of people who it's nice to see over the past couple of years that more sex favorable or even just sex repulsed asexuals are coming out and going, hey, the narrative we've had for so long is wrong. This is the correct definition of asexuality. So it's nice to see that it more people are talking about it when like it's not in your face, but when like you go looking for it, there are more sources, more people going, actually, asexuality means no sexual attraction. And they're putting the
Mhm.
emphasis on that attraction part
Mhm.
of it instead of the just, oh, you don't like sex, you're asexual.
No.
Because you can still have sexual attraction and not like sex.
Exactly.
And that's a thing that a lot of people forget as well.
Mhm.
Like, there is a group of people who struggle with the concept that I don't find you sexually attractive, but I will still have sex with you. The same way that I can be like, well, I find you very sexually attractive, but I do not want to have sex with you. Like both of
Mhm.
those concepts, back and forth, like people struggle with it, and it
Mhm.
doesn't make sense. Why? Why? What is the issue? Two different things, two different ball games here. Why are you trying to make them the same one? Don't work.
Exactly, and that's such a good point that you bring up. We rarely ever talk about the reverse. Absolutely. Uh, I must admit that as a co-facilitator of a space that includes both asexual and aromantic folks, I very much really limit the amount I talk about sex because of many of these assumptions of what asexuality has meant and how I've internalized that, oh, we're in a space. I'm not allowed to talk about sex and sexual experiences.
And you know what the thing is that so I read a lot of fan fiction, I read a lot of original stories, and some of the most degenerate, like just downright filth has been written by asexual individuals.
Yep, there's a clip from Glass's journal that makes that exact point, that the most, the best smut that you ever wrote, that you ever read, probably written by an asexual. And it almost
And
always
they write
is.
it so much they write it so much better. And I think it's because of that outside of you. Like there's I don't know if this is the right way to put it, but I think because there is no emotions attached to the
Mm-hmm.
act, they can describe it and make it
Mm-hmm.
make sense so much better than someone who has that emotional attachment to
Mm-hmm.
sex. Like,
Exactly.
some of the kinkiest people I know are all asexual.
Yep, absolutely.
Some of the biggest people in my BDSM dungeon are completely asexual,
100%.
but they are like top of the board because, again, two totally separate things.
Mm-hmm. And kink is not inherently sexual at all.
Kink is the broader term of it. So it can be sexual, it cannot be sexual.
It's just not inherently.
Kink is what you make it.
Yeah, it's not inherently sexual.
Yeah, it's the same as BDSM. That is, for some people, that is not inherently sexual. It is just a hyper-focused under the umbrella of kink. But because of bad representations through media and through what people have absorbed, they all go, oh, well, it must mean, like this is an experience that I had I don't frequent this dungeon anymore just because I don't have the time, but I still have a lot of good friends who are there. So it is a very good dungeon. I just want to say that before this comes out. But I remember when I was frequenting it, shortly after 50 Shades of Grey came out, we had so many people turn up and just assume that BDSM was kicking the shit out your partner. We had to kick out so many people who were like, well, no, this is what BDSM is. No, it's not. And again, it just comes back to that bad media representation because one thing just took off. And fair enough, that is one part of it. It is not incorrect. 50 Shades of Grey is not, some parts of it are very incorrect. But the bit that people sort of absorbed is kind of correct under the right circumstances, the right. But it was like it just forgot everything else. And it's the same with everything, really, in mainstream media, is that a lot of things are forgotten and they just take the parts that they want to highlight. And that is detrimental to anything and everything.
I think kink can be what it can mean different things to different people. For some folks, it can be a very sensual experience that's not sexual.
Well, yeah, kink is sensual. It is sexual. It can be not sexual. It can be not sensual. Kink is the broad umbrella
exactly
for it. So it's kind of the same as going, oh, LGBTQ plus. Kink sort of has that same, like, it envelops it all.
And it can have sort of different, meanings to different people. For some folks, it is very sensual and it's not sexual. For others, it's sexual but not sensual. And, it can envelop a variety of different experiences and, labels under that umbrella. I know that one of the folks that we chatted with on episode 18, where we really delved into, kinky aces and kink within the asexual community. For them, they were, drawn to kink because of the extremely strict and well-defined ground rules of engagement, particularly as somebody who also happened to be neurodivergent, and that's really what drew them into it.
Yeah. I know a lot of asexuals who are service tops. and that's where they like thrive, essentially.
For folks that are listening, they may not necessarily be knowledgeable of what a service top is. Can you elaborate on that for folks here?
I might not be very good at explaining this, but basically, a service top is the dominant party in a scene who is there totally to provide whatever pleasurable experience. So they're not in that scene to seek pleasurable experience for themselves. They are there entirely for their partner or partners. I think I've explained that well.
Definitely much better than I could explain it. So thank you very much for
So
for
for anybody who's a little bit confused as well, I will explain a service bottom, who is essentially the same, but is often on the receiving end of acts, not for their pleasure, but because they know somebody gets pleasure out of that act. That's the best way it's saying. So yeah, it's. I often find that if you explain both of them, people sort of tend to grasp it a little bit better. But yeah, I know a lot of asexual people who are fantastic service tops, and a service top is different to a dom. I want to point that out. The same way a bottom is different to a sub. Just in case anybody's confusing, thinking they're the same. They are very different. They do cross over quite a bit, but they are two different things. Well, 4 different things, I suppose I should say.
Are you able to elaborate a little bit more on that?
So the easiest way I can describe it, I actually struggled with this for quite a while. I thought I was a sub. I am not. I am in fact a bottom, because a sub is somebody who is subservient to someone. They enjoy doing things. So I'm trying to give me a second. I'm trying to find the words. I think the easiest way I can describe it, because this is my experience, is that I am what's considered a pillow princess. I like things having done to me. I like to be used in some capacity, but I am not that confident, and I don't really enjoy doing acts back. So I could, in some senses, very, very gently be considered a service bottom, because I am quite happy to just go, okay, what do you want to do? I agree with that. I don't agree with that. Let's go. I'm just going to enjoy my time here. Whereas somebody who is a sub will think they get their pleasure from providing acts to their dom, if that makes sense. So be that sexual acts, acts of sub-slavery, like living within a certain set of rules that their dom has set. That's the more sub side of it, whereas I'm not interested in that, but I am also a receiver, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying. It's definitely not something I'm super knowledgeable about, and I know that everybody here is definitely not going to be super knowledgeable necessarily. So thank you for clarifying.
Do take everything I say with a little bit of grain of salt, because sometimes I'm not the best at explaining things. Like I understand concepts, but then putting them into words, I can sometimes trip over and use the wrong word and not realize until 6 months down the line and go, shit. So if it is something you are interested in, 100% and I say this for absolutely everything. If you hear something that you are interested in, or you're just sort of like, I'd like to know a little bit more, always do your own research and always get your information from multiple sources. And cross-reference everything, because sometimes somebody can say something with absolute confidence and be completely and utterly wrong.
Absolutely, and I've been wrong before myself.
And it's something that we all do, and we might not do it maliciously, because again, it all comes down to the information that we have been fed.
Exactly.
And there is, there's so many sources of information, and unfortunately, if one person gets one thing wrong and And then, you know, it just goes down the line. So it's always, even if it's a person of authority, you know, always go away and double check things and do your own research, because
Mm-hmm.
you know, and things change over time as well. So what might be correct now may not be correct in the future. It may have expanded slightly.
Absolutely, 100%.
Words are hard in insomnia. You know
Yes,
I struggle with words.
that is a mood, and they are. And often when I stream, I struggle the most um, coming up with
Yeah.
words. And also lately, I've
It's
been
like
absolutely exhausted, and words have been even harder.
that doesn't help. Yeah, that doesn't help. It's why I'm currently on a streaming hiatus because of that. I'm too exhausted.
Hmm. So we very, very much, really appreciate that you've, taken the time to be here today, especially,
Oh, I've been
given.
looking forward to this since we agreed to it. Genuinely, I have been counting down the days.
I'm so glad, and it's such a honor to have you chatting with us today.
I'm glad to be here. Because it's something I do enjoy talking about as well. You know, I enjoy talking about how, you know, what asexuality means. I enjoy talking about sex in general.
Hmm.
You know, and BDSM and kink
Yeah.
and just things that most people sort of go, "Oh no, you're not supposed to talk about that." And I don't know if it's because I get sometimes I do feel like I get enjoyment out of making people somewhat uncomfortable, because then they can sort of come out of that uncomfortableness, if that makes sense. Like I know a few people who will now comfortably talk about things that they were convinced they were not allowed to mention years ago. And sometimes you do have to push that boundary with people so that they can find their own comfort level that they have
Hmm.
not been told is their comfort level.
It definitely is important to remind folks that a lot of this is uncomfortable because of this compulsory sexuality. And so having these discussions and reminding folks of that is incredibly important. And, we definitely don't get the sex favorable, perspective of asexuality on the podcast very often. So this is such an important discussion to be having today.
And it can also change people's lives.
Hmm.
Like, I have a friend who unfortunately has endometriosis, and it was only discovered, they only went to the doctor about it because we were having a group discussion about sex, and just, you know, just like not a serious one, just a ha ha funny, oh, you know, this happened. And they sort of perked up and went, it's really painful for me. And that developed into having a discussion. And from that, they went to the doctors and they got their endometriosis diagnosis. So just having that relaxed conversation changed their
100%.
life.
100%. It's incredibly important to have these discussions because you don't know how that will necessarily, you can't, foresee the, impacts that might have on the person, and, these unexpected um,
Yeah.
ways that it
Because
can
if
have
the
a really
only
beneficial impact on someone.
Yeah, because the only normal you know is the experience you have. And if like
Hmm.
this is the most stupid one, but for 33 years, I didn't realize that toothpaste is not supposed to burn your mouth. And it was only having a conversation with my brother that he was like, that's not right. And then I went and asked other people, and they were like, yeah, that sounds wrong. It turns out I have an allergy. And I had
Oh
no idea, because
no.
that was just my normal. That was just my normal. That was my everyday.
No, I'm
Toothpaste
so
burnt my mouth, and I
sorry.
was like, "Oh, this is clearly as it's supposed to be." And again, just that one little comment turned into a conversation, and then I went and asked other people, and they were like, "Yeah, no, that's not right."
Hmm.
So it's so
100%.
important to have conversations about like everything, essentially, you know, because you never know what's going to change your path.
Absolutely. And I will always take time to fight back against this compulsory sexuality.
100%.
Bring it up all the time, particularly in, 2S LGBTQIA plus spaces that are not predominantly aspec, and be like, maybe think about how the assumptions that you're bringing today to the table and the discussions that we're having, and think about it through this particular lens. And I've definitely helped people realize, the problematic assumptions that society has, pushed on us, and that we've just internalized and not given much thought about more broadly.
Yeah. And in the same scope, that compulsory sexuality is also, now this might sound really controversial, but if that's how somebody enjoys their experiences, that is not wrong. As long as
No,
you respect
exactly.
other people's,
Exactly.
if you enjoy that sort of, that lifestyle, it's not wrong as long as you
No.
respect other people's and got sort of go, you know what, this is how I do it, that's how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And
You know?
it's, I always will go on, on, in an analogous way, I go on absolute long rants around Valentine's Day about the fact that,
Oh, go on.
we as a society assume that everybody wants romance, and everybody should, shell out to capitalism to, prove to their partner that, they are fulfilling their romantic duty.
Yeah.
And
Like,
I'm like, if that works for you, that's great. But what I want you to
yeah,
recognize is not everybody wants to
exactly.
subscribe to that. And that's what society forgets.
Yeah. And even people who do enjoy romance can be upset by Valentine, because
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing I've come across, is that even people who do enjoy romance, who have the opinion, like myself, that it should be all year round, not just on one day
Mm-hmm.
decided by, a guy
Capitalism.
however many years ago. Like, it's like I've had people have an issue with that, and I'm like, why? If you're in a romantic relationship with someone or some people, it should be all year round, not just one day.
Exactly.
And it's
Why
like,
February
fair enough if
14th?
that's how you live, but I respect that you only do it that one day a year, but
Mm-hmm.
respect that I would like it all year
Mm-hmm.
round. It doesn't
Exactly.
have to be every day, every minute, every second, but
No.
not when somebody else has dictated that you've got to buy me a bunch of roses. Do it because you feel like it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But I feel like some parts of society have just got too comfortable in being told what and when and how, and they have forgotten that they can make decisions for themselves as well.
Mm-hmm. 100%. I do want to ask, have there been
Mhm.
spaces where you have felt affirmed as a sex favorable ace?
Yes, 100%. I'm finding Twitch is actually quite a nice space now that more people are coming out and more people are talking about asexuality and what it actually means. And I'm finding more people who are learning and becoming those allies to it in a sense. Obviously, the most obvious one is kink dungeons, BDSM spaces, like, because they just accept everybody and go, you know what? Fantastic. You
Mm-hmm.
do, you don't. This is what you like. This is what you don't like. This is what you accept. This is what not interested in. Fantastic, because everybody's welcome. Well, most people are welcome in BDSM and kink spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
honestly, it was in those spaces. It's absolutely to me that it was. I wasn't accepted in ace spaces, but I was accepted in dungeons. Like, that is not how it should be. I should be accepted in both of those spaces. I should not be chased out by fellow asexuals just because I don't fit their narrative. But the dungeon spaces didn't even bat an eye that I said I was asexual. They were more interested in like, okay, what are your boundaries? Are you touch averse? Do you want handshakes, hugs? Do you want to do scenes? Like, they took it surface level. Right, you're asexual. Okay, no sexual attraction. That means no difference to a scene or anything that's going on in here. Fantastic, you are comfortable telling us that, but it is what it is, and it's just absolutely that these spaces that advertise themselves as ace friendly spaces were not. Now, if they had advertised themselves as asexual, sex repulsed, or sex negative spaces, then 100% fair to them. That is your space. I am not welcome there because I don't fit that narrative. But no, most spaces that go, yeah, we're an ace space, and you turn up and you go, well, I am asexual, but I fucking love sex, and they go, oh no, you cannot be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And as somebody that runs, as I was saying before, a support group for, both aromantic and asexual folks that expand, a diverse spectrum of experiences, it is always incredibly difficult for me to gauge, is it okay to talk about sex here today? Or is this something I'm not going to bring up? And it's
It
never
can be
been
difficult
easy.
because there's the two sides of the coin. Like, so some people are uncomfortable some people are uncomfortable talking about sex, but then there's those of us that feel uncomfortable in spaces where it's not to be mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because it's just, you just end up sat there just silent then, because you're like, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not allowed to talk, essentially. And it's not like we are specifically heading out to talk about sex, but there is
No.
that fear that, oh, if I accidentally mention
Mm-hmm.
something even close,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
if I mention I kiss my partner and somebody goes, oh no, you can't talk about that here, it makes me uncomfortable. Fair enough to them, but like it also can make people on the other side uncomfortable, thinking, well, I'm just gonna sit here and be quiet because I don't know where the line is.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And this is a space that's for both the arrow and ace spectrums. And so we do get allosexual aromantics as well in the space.
Yeah.
And I know that they've often felt alienated because of the predominantly asexual group that we generally have. And so I can certainly, appreciate, the struggle that creates.
It's unfortunate, but you will never be able to please
Mm-hmm.
everybody.
Exactly.
That's the thing. But as in my mind, as long as an asexual friendly space doesn't become a false advertisement,
Mm-hmm.
I think things are good. Sometimes you might just have to say, hey, this is what's on the agenda
Mm-hmm.
today. If you are uncomfortable, we are
Yeah.
very sorry, but there will be a space for you next time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because while we are on the same spectrum, we're not in the same rooms.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Same building, different classroom.
And I am glad that, from time to time we do, explore these sorts of, you know, issues in the group and talk about, these very same struggles. And it's important to have those sorts of discussions.
Yeah, because you never know if somebody because you can have a discussion including sex,
Mm-hmm.
and one person will be completely and utterly uncomfortable with it, and another person will be uncomfortable with talking about actual sexual acts,
Mm-hmm.
but comfortable having that laughy, jokey sexual tension,
Mm-hmm.
sexual joke, like that fun conversation.
Yeah.
So that, again, there's two different things. It is difficult, but I think as long as everybody's honest and sort of like, as long as nobody's nasty about it, I love that. I
Yes,
absolutely love that. Same
absolutely,
shit, different
Riley.
toilet.
Absolutely.
I'm using that. Same shit, different toilet.
100%. That's
Because
great.
it is, it is it. But it's like with any discussion. You could be talking about, I don't know, the weather. As a Brit, we talk about the weather a lot, and I've got a few people who are abroad and go, "Oh, for fuck's sake, you're talking about the weather again?" And it's like, yeah, and they'll just leave the conversation because they don't care, and the rest of us will just have a good chinwag about it. And then when it's over, this other person will come back. It's like everything; you can't make everybody happy, and as long as you are respectful about it. Like, I respect that you may be uncomfortable about this, and if I'm the only person who's talking about it, then yeah, I will step back. But if there's
Hmm.
other people and we're having a nice chat about it and we're having fun, why do some people like sort of go, I'm uncomfortable, we are not allowed to do this? It's like, just remove yourself for the minute until yeah, it's not a nice feeling if you can't join in the conversation, but you can't dictate what everybody's saying. It has to be give and take for on all
Hmm.
sides of the board.
Absolutely. And as a co-facilitator, it can be tricky to navigate the diverse range of experiences that we do have in the group.
Yeah.
Um, so in your opinion,
Hmm.
I mean, we've sort of talked about this already. How do we create more space for discussions of sex favorable asexuality, within predominantly ace spaces? And I think, we've already sort of talked about this to varying degrees.
I think the biggest thing is just making sure that people understand what asexuality is
Yeah.
and the different types of asexuality. I think that is the biggest hurdle that we face as a community, is just educating other people that there is their field of view is very narrow right now, and it may not be their fault. It may just they may be the type of person that goes, no, this is my view and I will stick to it, and I disregard anybody else's. Now, they're problematic, but you know what? Fair enough. I do think the biggest thing is just reminding people that it's it's the attraction. That's what asexual, it's sexual attraction.
I love this
A lot of
phrase. It's
people
sexual attraction, not action.
that yes, yeah, it's sexual attraction, and a lot of people put the emphasis on the wrong word.
They talk about action
They
rather than attraction.
no, they just concentrate on the word sexual.
Yeah.
They concentrate on the word sex instead of attraction.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I don't know if saying calling it asexual is the wrong way to put it, but like I'm trying to find. I think instead of saying asexual attraction spectrum, it may help somewhat to just say it's an attraction spectrum.
Hmm.
Because the moment people hear the word sex or sexual, that's what they key in on.
Hmm.
And it's just unfortunate that that's the way it is, but and that's what we're here to do, is we're here to sort of try and nudge people to know it's the attraction part of it.
Hmm. Absolutely. And, this also applies more broadly to society as well. That
Yeah,
society
I
has this.
100% I 100% think that things like talk just having general discussions about sex and what happens and what can go wrong, especially what can go wrong, um, and just sexual health in general and safe sexual practices should be discussed more openly. Because people
Hmm.
can hurt themselves and have no idea that they've hurt
Hmm.
themselves because they just sort of go, "Well, this must be right. It hurt, but it must be right."
No, I mean, that's why it's so important to have these sorts of discussions anywhere.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of it always comes back to this term right here.
Yeah.
And I saw, Duke mention that, for me, my biggest enemy is amatonormativity. I absolutely despise amatonormativity, but also I
You're gonna
despise
have to
this
break that
too.
one down for me.
So
I've
amatonormativity
mhm.
is a term that feminist philosopher Elizabeth Brake coined in 2013. And it's this universal assumption that everybody desires to be in a coupled monogamous romantic relationship and that should therefore lead to marriage. It's that,
Oh God, no, thank you.
yeah. So it's that
Ugh,
idea
no,
that,
no.
there's only one way to be in a relationship, basically, and that it's romantic
Oh no,
and it's going to
there's a
be consummated in marriage.
1,001. There's
Mm-hmm.
1,001 ways to be in a relationship, and I am one of those people. I will be in a monogamous relationship, but I'm also happy with an open relationship. I'm
Mm-hmm.
happy with a poly
Mm-hmm.
relationship. I'm omnisexual as well. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's like fair enough if you want to get married, I'll sell it. Like, I've got two of my best friends are getting married, and they're very monogamous, and I'm like, I fucking love that for you. That
Yeah,
is, if that what makes you happy,
exactly.
like, I love and respect that, and I will celebrate that with you every
Same.
single day of the week.
Same.
And but I'll also, like, I'll celebrate anybody's happy relationship. There
Mm-hmm.
is 1,001 ways to be
Mm-hmm.
to that's wound me up. That
Yep.
I've
So
never come across that term before. I'm just like,
now you know why I despise amatonormativity. Unfortunately, it's very, very
oh.
common in the world.
Yeah, because I feel like the word relationship again, that is one that has
It has a very
lost
specific
its
meaning
meaning. Yeah,
to
because
most of
like
society.
we have a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
We have a specific type of
Mm-hmm.
relationship, but it's not the one that society dictates that
No,
the word relationship now means.
exactly.
And people forget. People forget. Like I've said this before. I was like, oh, I can't remember what the discussion was specifically. But I was having a discussion with somebody that I work with, and I mentioned that I had a relationship with someone, and they were like, "Oh, congratulations, you've got a partner." I'm like, "No, I just have a relationship with this person. I have, and it was a moment. They didn't do it maliciously, but they had this moment, and they
Yeah.
went, "Oh God, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
relationship doesn't mean this thing." And it's like, I feel like a lot of words that we avoid or use specifically, we have given them too much power in one sense of their meaning, of one
Mm-hmm.
sense of their definition, and we need to go back to what they actually mean.
Yep. And that's why I will spend hours reminding folks about the term amatonormativity. It is actually a command. You can type that in the chat and a definition will pop up. And yeah, so I go on plenty of rants, almost every podcast about amatonormativity. Also frequently in the Ace and Arrow group that I co-facilitate. And very often just casually at the university as well, whenever I can bring it up.
It's yeah, it is. It's one of these things that I'm the same way with bringing up the actual definition for asexuality and other other sexualities, like, because we do just have to remind people
Mm-hmm.
that
100%.
this is what it is. It's like I've recently been having a lot of discussions about omnisexuality and what that means, and introducing people to that. And it's something that some people are going, "Oh, okay, that makes sense," and others are really struggling with it. But it's why I keep helping them go through it. I remind them what it means, and eventually it's like anything. It's you have to keep. The way the brain makes these neuron pathways is that you have to keep that information going for it to eventually solidify. And I will continue to talk about asexuality until I'm blue in the face. Because even if it just helps one person, that is more than enough. If I can help that one person go, actually, you know what? That is me, or that is not me. You know, I've done my job. Because I don't want
100%.
anybody to struggle the same way that I struggled, because it wrecked me for years, being rejected from these spaces despite feeling I fit this flag, but being told, "Oh no, you're wrong. You don't belong here." It was awful. And I don't want anybody to go through that, because it's just not nice. So if I can be that one space that people come in and go, "You know what? This lines up with how I feel. I feel accepted in this space. I feel safe here." It's fantastic. I would love to be that space, and I would love to be that, that safe little corner of the internet where you can build that confidence to then go out and go, "You know what? All you people telling me I'm wrong, fuck you."
And that's why I do this podcast. That's why I help co-facilitate the Ace and Arrow support group. Exact same reason. So I'm 100% there with you. I can help create a space, help create an environment where you can learn something about yourself and, feel empowered to have these sorts of discussions. I've done my job.
Yeah. It's what we like to do. I'd say it's what we're here for, but we're here for a lot of different reasons. But one of those reasons is to help people, because I learn a lot of things from other people's experiences as well. It's not just about me throwing information out there. Give me information. I don't care what it is. Give me information. I fucking love information. I am a sponge. And it's just, it's forming connections with people. It's forming relationships.
Yes. And relationship as in not the
well.
capital R. Not the capital R
Yeah.
relationship that everybody assumes it to mean.
Yeah, the societal relationship. No, I just have a relationship with you, and I love that, and it's fantastic. And now give me all your information. No, it's all about having fun. It's all about being comfortable, and it's all about having a good old yap.
100%. So that's all the questions that I have prepared for today. Is there anything else that you'd like to touch on?
I have no idea. I'll be perfectly honest. I'm one of those people who will think about. It'll be 2 days down the line, and I'll go, "Oh, I should have mentioned that." But I'm also, if anybody in chat has any questions about
100%.
my experiences, or I love talking about my experience. I love talking.
That's awesome.
Listen, yeah, we have a relationship. Now give me all of your information. I don't care if it's a useless bit of trivia. I love it. I love knowing things. I love picking people's brains and sort of going, I may not have any interest in how this machine works, or how this thing is created, or whatever it is, but tell me about it. I love when people come to me and they're like, "Let me tell you about this thing," and I'm like, "I have no idea what it is, but I'm going to be happy with you." Yeah, info dump me. Always
100%.
love an info dump. Even I don't have that many brain cells to rub together, but I will make smoke trying to understand it for you.
I love going on tangents about all sorts of things here on the podcast, on streams. I love trying to teach folks about snow and the physics of snow thermal insulation. And I'm grateful that chat allows me.
Yeah. How many times have you come into my chat and gone, "Oh, I've done this today," and I'm like, "I have no idea what this is, but tell me about it." and I will do my absolute best to understand it. And at the end, I'm like, it's not going in, but I am so happy for you. Are we happy? Are we sad? Are we? What is it? What am I supposed to be feeling about this information that I have been given? You know, what is the vibe? I will be that vibe with you. I love people.
Mm-hmm.
You will often hear me say, I know there's going to be a lot in my community going, hey up, she's constantly saying she dislikes people. No, I love people. I also dislike them, but you know what it is. But no,
Mm-hmm.
I love celebrating things with people, and I love when you know, I love answering questions as well. I love when people come at me with a question that I can answer, and I'm like, oh, let me teach you something. Yeah, I'm the same as Riley. Like, you have sent me those infographics a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, I fucking love these. Don't know what I'm looking at, but it's interesting. And the pathways in my brain are firing in the wrong direction, but I don't care.
Mood.
But no, if anybody in chat does have any questions about my experiences as an asexual, a sex favorable, sex positive asexual, I am more than happy to answer them, or do my best to answer them. I might not be correct, but I can give you my version of correct.
Yeah, and we obviously, you know, I can only speak from my own experience, and Debbie can only speak from her own experience. Absolutely. Somniac mentioned no questions, but an update. I'm ace. Always thought about that because having a libido canceled out the lack of attraction. So thank you to both of you for this clarification. And I am so happy that we were able to clarify that and, you know, have a space where we could have a discussion where you could learn that. Thank you for the hydrate
and
reminder.
Again, hydrate, thank you. But yeah, this is like, I'm glad that we could be that space where you had to take a step back and go, you know what, this is me. Because now you know who you are. It might not make a difference to anything you do day to day, but you can have that confidence in going, no, this is me. This is me. I'm so happy for you, Insomnia.
Me too. I am so happy. And Echo, always good to see you. Always good to see you, Echo.
It is always lovely to see Echo.
100%. Hi, Echo. Good to see you. Thank you for being here today. Aw. 100%, Riley. Relationships, there's many ways to be in a relationship. There's many kinds of relationships. Not all of them have to be romantic. Not all of them have to be sexual if you don't want them to be. But keep radically loving people without expectations for those.
They don't even have to be platonic.
Exactly. You can have queer platonic.
You can have a relationship with somebody without it being sexual, or platonic, or friendship. You just knowing somebody. I mean, most people would call it an acquaintanceship, but that's a more defined term. But it's still. Excuse me, I do apologize. I have hiccups again. I have an issue with hiccups. But yeah, like, a relationship is just that, a relationship. It is a connection with another person, regardless of what kind of connection that is. It is still a relationship.
100%. And it's important to recognize that, you know, relationship or that term has a specific and loaded meaning, generally because of amatonormativity, because of compulsory sexuality. And we are here to dispel that myth.
We are. But also respect if that's how you decide to live your life.
And that's perfectly okay. You know, the coupled romantic monogamous sexually driven relationship is perfectly okay.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong
As
with
long
it.
as you respect everybody else
Exactly.
the way we respect you, because that's what it's all about. Respect.
100%.
Doesn't necessarily, you don't necessarily have to understand. You know, there's lots of things that I don't understand, but I still respect it because
Exactly.
it's the way somebody else chooses to live, and as long as they're not doing anything harmful, as long as everything is consensual, and as long as they're, you know, like, I don't even need, you know, want to say you have to be a good person. You can be a bit of an asshole, but as long as you're respectful, that's all that matters.
100%. Think, you
Oh,
know,
that's really sweet,
aw,
Riley. That's really sweet.
aw, 100%, 100%.
And that's how we should be, you know. Some people
Absolutely.
don't deserve respect. I will put my hands up to that because not everybody is a decent person.
Yeah,
But you know,
unfortunately.
for the
Yeah.
majority, you know.
Would love to say thank you so much again for being here. And
Of course, I've really enjoyed myself.
we've had such
It's
incredible discussions today. Yes, respect does not have to
yes.
equal compassion.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that society has dictated that this means this, and it's like, no, 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 no. No, no. We have the reason we have separate words for things is because they are separate concepts.
100%.
Yes, I have had a wonderful time. It's been lovely to meet your community. It has been lovely to natter on for as long as I have.
Absolutely. And we've had a really good discussion. At this point, let's see who is live.